The next speaker that I would like to invite is our registered dietitian. Her name is Karmyn Cheung. She graduated from the College of Pharmacy and Nutrition in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in 2008 and has been providing nutrition education, counseling, and assisting patients who are recovering from gastrointestinal surgeries at the Royal Alexandra Hospital in Edmonton for the last 16 years. She works with surgical patients, and her interest and passion have been so since her internship as a dietitian. She also enjoys cooking and traveling, experiencing new food and culture, as well as gardening in her spare time. Please help me welcome Karmyn.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be able to spend time listening to everyone so far. But about a year ago, I was actually approached and asked if I wanted to participate in updating some nutrition resources that had been available for a number of years. So I thought to myself, this could be fun. We'll kind of see what we can work on. And during that process, we came to the conclusion that there was simply too much information and practical advice that patients with stomach cancer could benefit from that could reasonably fit into a couple of information sheets. That being said, late last year, Eating and Living Well with Stomach Cancer was published in print and online, and this was made possible through an educational grant by Taiho. And it was done in collaboration with Katie and Teresa, of course, from My Gut Feeling, Gastric Cancer Foundation of Canada, and Elke from Nourish, who brought us all together, of course, and of course my fellow dietitian Denise from St. Mike's Hospital, whom co-authored with me. I have no connections to big food or industry to disclose, although I really do love food. I only work in my clinical role in Edmonton, Alberta. I've spent many years now working with patients and families who struggle with nutrition, and in some ways made worse. It's kind of really confusing because it's made worse by the abundance of conflicting information that's available online. Sadly, not everyone will have access to reliable nutrition advice throughout the span of their stomach cancer journey. So it was truly an honor in many ways that there was, in many ways, this was something that I've always wished was available to patients. A guide that all patients, caregivers, families, support, people in your lives that they can reference and use, whether it's whether it was at the time of new diagnosis, during treatments, having surgery, or in survivorship. I believe in empowering patients through knowledge. Knowledge is something that can be used to help patients to advocate for themselves and to understand their symptoms, how to manage them, and knowing what to eat under challenging circumstances. And lastly, a hope that it would ease some anxiety from the unknown. So at the time of stomach cancer diagnosis or shortly afterwards is typically when I would be meeting with patients and families. It's understandably a very incredibly difficult time for everyone, a life-changing diagnosis, as I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Often there have been vague symptoms like reflux, pain, nausea, vomiting, weight loss, decreased appetite for quite some time leading up to diagnosis. And so when patients come to me, they spend roughly 1 to 2 days in hospital to undergo a diagnostic laparoscopy to stage the cancer and to obtain additional biopsies to determine a treatment plan. And from there is a long wait to be assessed and to start treatments. In those 2 short days in hospital that I get to see these patients, there is a lot of nutrition information that they could benefit from, and they also have a number of questions that they often have already. And this can be completely overwhelming to cover during such a short period of time. The amount of information that people can retain during this time might not be that great, especially since they would have undergone general anesthetics in order to undergo a diagnostic lab. So at that very same time, this is a very important moment for us to identify patients who are unlikely to eat and drink enough to get through treatments, in which case I might be having a conversation with my surgeon to advocate for some nutrition support that would help patients to undergo treatments and hopefully prevent hospital admissions afterwards. So for those that are able to tolerate eating food, this is a section taken straight out of the booklet that I saw has been made available at the conference. They often, even though the people can tolerate eating food, they do require a bit of modifications, and in some cases, they can manage by eating softer foods with more moisture, or they may need to make some additional changes like blending up their foods, and everyone's a little bit different, so we try to work with them to come up with ideas on foods that they can focus on, foods that they can get a little bit of extra protein and calories from, and practical advice on how best to prepare them. Most patients will need to drink at least some calorie and protein-containing beverages to get enough nutrition, or they might not be able to tolerate anything more than just fluids alone. In which case, we try to review ways to maximize the amount of calories and protein they can get from different liquids throughout the day. Everyone has their own preferences for, what they like, what they don't like, so we try to find some things, or a few things anyways, that works for them. We work with them individually. And of course, I will always review with patients what they are currently able to eat at home before coming in, give them some recommendations on adjustments that they can make to maybe ingredients or preparation to their meals and snacks, so that they can actually get some additional calories and protein and just make everything a little bit more nutrient dense. So what I like most about this booklet is that any information that isn't retained in their short period of time with me can still be made available to patients and families to review at home. Most patients and families I meet with are very keen, they want to do well, but sometimes they're just simply not in the right mindset to absorb the information or to ask all the important questions while in hospital. Unfortunately, there's always a time gap between when I see patients in hospital to when they are seen by my dietitian colleagues at the cancer clinics during treatment. The wait time before starting treatment, at least where I'm from, unfortunately, can be anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. Yet this is the moment in time where having a good nutrition is essential to help patients to get through treatments and treatments that come with its own set of side effects on top of symptoms they may already have. Maintaining good nutrition or adequate nutrition hydration is also a part of the assessment for performance status. So the ultimate goal is to support patients through treatments, which will help hopefully reduce their need for dose reductions or early discontinuation of treatments. On top of that, of course, good nutrition helps in maintaining quality of life, functional well-being, wound healing, and decreasing risk of complications after surgery. I would argue during this time spent waiting, it is probably one of the more important times to kind of help patients to improve their nutrition as much as possible, much like preparing for a marathon. So when undergoing surgery, treatments or not, most patients will have at least some nutrition-related side effects to contend with. Symptom management is the cornerstone of good nutrition. If symptoms are not well managed, patients are unlikely to eat and drink well. Once symptoms are controlled as best as we can, of course, it becomes a little bit easier to try to eat a little bit better, try to make every bite and sip count, and getting in as much nutrition as possible. Sometimes these symptoms weren't identified or addressed yet in the chaos of a new diagnosis, and in this booklet we provide some strategies to manage some common symptoms like nausea, sore throat, early satiety, poor appetite, and then, of course, diarrhea. This is, of course, not a replacement for medical advice, but it does give patients some ideas on things that they can try on their own while empowering them with the knowledge that they can then use to advocate for themselves when meeting with doctors and other health providers to gain control of their symptoms. Some key messaging I really want to emphasize is to really not to be afraid to utilize medications for symptom management to your advantage, particularly if it's going to help you feel and eat better. For example, most patients get prescribed medications to take when they're nauseous, but like you may feel nauseous while eating or afterwards, and then you take your medications. Because it's prescribed as taking it as needed for nausea. But if this is a consistent problem, I do find most of my patients find it actually better or easier to take something for nausea about half an hour before kind of eating, just so that they're feeling their best during a meal and hopefully reduce the feeling of nausea or just generally feeling unwell after eating instead. Working with your doctor on this, of course, is kind of very important. They should know kind of what you're dealing with. They also want to help. If you are about to start or have started treatments and haven't met with a dietitian yet, please ask to see one. Every cancer treatment center has the access to dietitians. They might just simply not have been made aware of you yet, and we do want to help. If you get to a point where you simply cannot eat and drink at all, you need to speak with your doctor urgently. I know most people don't love or enjoy coming to the hospital, but if you can't eat and you can't drink at all, you're unlikely to tolerate treatments and you can become very ill. And we've touched on this a bit earlier. On occasion, I meet with patients who do require nutrition support to stay hydrated, get to have enough nutrition to get through treatments so that they can maintain their strength. At my hospital, sometimes we do send patients home with small bowel feeding tubes, and we teach patients how to administer some tube feeds at home in order to get them through their treatments and hopefully avoid the need to stop treatments or to be readmitted to hospital. This is not permanent, of course. Many patients do start feeling perhaps at least a little bit better or maybe a lot better towards the middle or end of their treatments and are able to eat enough to no longer require it. They simply needed something to bridge them to that point in their journey. Others may continue to have trouble eating after treatment, so the feeding tube can actually help them get enough nutrition to gain some weight, gain some strength to prepare them if they proceed with having surgery moving forward. And if they do end up having surgery, of course, good nutrition does help to reduce complications and improves healing and recovery times. Other challenges I find many patients face is actually preparing meals or even thinking about what even to prepare. Maybe you feel too fatigued to think about meal planning, to get groceries, or to prepare meals for yourself. We've compiled a long list of ideas that patients can try to use in order to manage these challenges and to reduce the time and energy burden of creating meals. A common remark I hear patients and families is they feel so overwhelmed, they're not even sure what to have for dinner or lunch or for any day of the week. And although I am, AI is very good for a lot of different things, but, specifically for medical and nutrition advice, like generally, like sometimes it could be a little bit sketchy, but it actually is quite useful in getting maybe simple meal ideas, and I'm gonna show you here. So there's lots of different AI search engines that you can use. It doesn't have to be any particular one. They'll do roughly the same thing. In order to kind of get this chart, I actually just gave it 2 simple prompts. I asked for a 7-day high-calorie protein meal plan with 3 meals, 3 snacks for a small appetite. And then I asked it, because it will generate this huge long list, and then afterwards I asked them, organize this to a chart for easy reading, and this is what I got. Because everyone eats a little bit different, you can fine-tune this with additional prompts afterwards. You can give it kind of things like, I don't eat beef, or update this with no fish, or I want each meal to have at least 25 grams of protein, whatever it is that works for you. And it will fine-tune it to exactly what you ask for. This is not meant to force you into eating exactly what the meal plan lists for each day, although you could if you wanted to. Instead, you can use it for meal and snack ideas, and when you feel like you don't have any ideas or you can't come up with anything on your own. And then you can even take it one step further and ask them to compile a grocery list for the week that you can go out to the grocery store just for ideas for things that you need to buy. If you're happy with some of the meal ideas that it's given you. So after treatment, it's for most patients that I meet, they do tend to have some lingering symptoms or side effects that continue to need to be managed. And of course, again, like if you're unable to eat and drink at this time, contacting your doctor is most important. But if you are feeling a lot better, I really think this is a good opportunity to eat as much as you feel that you can manage to hopefully gain some strength and improve your energy levels. And if possible, minimize any additional weight loss you may have already had. Being able to at least try to maintain your weight, or in some cases, I've seen some patients be able to regain some weight, does help prepare you for kind of any additional treatments or surgery you may undergo later on. Although trying to gain weight, whether it's before or after treatment, before or after surgery, is obviously going to be, it's challenging and it can be quite modest. So to help with that, we've included a section with many ideas on ways that you can enhance the calories and protein in your diet. This can be used at any time during your journey. Every little bit helps. I really encourage my patients to try what works for them and to fit in a bit more at each meal and snack where you can. And of course, getting extra nutrition for energy and protein shakes and drinks are likely to remain the easiest way of getting extra nutrition in your diet on top of what you are able to eat. So on the booklet, there is a link to actually many resources for making your own protein shakes. That hopefully will work for you. This is one of the resources listed in the booklet, and the idea behind this chart is to give you lots of ingredients that you could potentially can mix and match to create a complete protein shake that will be very dense in calories and protein. The most important thing is to include at least one ingredient from the calorie booster list and one ingredient from the protein booster list in order to make a more complete drink. This is, of course, sometimes people don't really want to make their own, so you could definitely purchase any of the ready-to-made protein and calorie drinks that are available out there. But just as like a public service announcement, there is a growing number of protein drinks and shakes out there in the market, and a lot of them do tend to be geared towards people who are trying to lose weight and using these products as meal replacement. So, because of that, often they are very low in calories. They could be as little as 100 calories or less. So if you're considering buying these types of products, I do recommend that one, maybe look around for a different product that has a bit more calories to it. 300 calories or more would be ideal, but even if you can find one, or if you can find one that works for you, but it happens to be lower in calories, then consider adding a calorie booster, kind of listed on the chart there, to kind of make the protein shake itself more complete. I didn't include it in my slides today, but actually there's a new resource that came out from the BC Dietitians with a fairly extensive list of protein powders that can be used, and like all sorts of textures, flavors, creamy, not creamy. Some of them are completely clear. I'll forward the link to Teresa and Katie to include when everything gets posted online. I just didn't get a chance to add it onto here. So eating after surgery, when I meet with patients, is another very challenging moment in this journey. I'm sure some of you may have experienced that already. A lot of things make it difficult patients to eat after surgery. There's pain, fatigue, nausea, vomiting. Maybe it's reactions to medications and anesthetics, a slow return to bowel function, completely absent appetite, and in some cases, early dumping syndrome. Again, of course, talking to your doctors about the symptoms that you're struggling with, particularly nausea, is really important. Kind of dealing with it sooner rather than later will kind of help you feel your best kind of earlier. Most patients end up staying in hospital with me for 5 to 7 days after surgery, and once they're allowed to eat, assuming you're not nauseous or throwing up, we really do want you to try your best to eat as much as you can comfortably do. It might mean only eating a small amount with each meal, and to try snacking on small amounts in between, drinking some nutrition supplements instead of just water throughout the day. But we really don't expect our patients to eat 100% right out of surgery. It's going to take time for most people to learn to eat in a different way, but we do need patients to, at least we call it testing out the plumbing. Make sure that by the time you go home, that you can at least tolerate a reasonable amount of food and beverage. And we know that you have the ability to continue working on nutrition at home and hopefully avoid having issues that bring you back to the hospital. It's a tough balance. As a dietitian, my hope is always that the strategies that patients had found that worked for them before surgery may work for them as well after surgery. But you want them to get back on track as soon as possible, but we also understand soon doesn't necessarily mean in the first week, the first month, and maybe not even in the first year after surgery. So if I had to pick a singular time where I see patients struggle with the most after diagnosis, it's in the immediate aftermath after gastric surgery. Some patients may have received a feeding tube along with surgery to help ease that transition back to eating, and this transition could take months or longer. And even then, this is a big life adjustment for most patients. Many tell me they feel very conflicted with the desire to eat and feel normal again, but in most cases, they are unable to do so for a prolonged period of time. Sometimes the messaging they hear from health providers is everyone loses weight after with gastric cancer or surgery anyways, which, it isn't untrue. It very much is true, but it doesn't mean that there aren't some unfortunate long-term consequences to losing a lot of weight. And it's, and it doesn't mean that there isn't anything, that there isn't something that you can do to help minimize that weight loss as much as possible. we develop our eating habits and behaviors throughout a lifetime. And so to completely change that takes a lot of work. Symptoms for treatments may also continue to persist long after you're done surgery and treatments. And ironically, this is the moment in time where most patients I find fall between the cracks. While in active treatment in hospital, you're surrounded by so many different providers who are able to be there to support you. But once everything is completed and you're kind of in that maintenance period, there seems to be a real limited access to providers who can, perhaps help continue guiding you down that journey. Unfortunately, healthcare systems in most provinces in Canada aren't set up to support stomach cancer patients long term, especially after surgery and treatments are done, which is unfortunate. So that being said, nutrition guidance through stomach cancer diagnosis looks different for nearly everyone. There's so much to consider: basic food preferences, allergies, culture, routines, ability to prepare food, ability to afford food, emotional and mental well-being. I truly believe that anyone with stomach cancer diagnosis should, at least have access to an annual review with a dietitian, particularly if they're really struggling, or maybe just to be a sounding board for any additional questions or concerns that may have come up throughout as time goes on. And in absence of that, my hope is that this booklet will reach those who don't feel they have that support or don't have access to them, providing them with nutrition recommendations that can be useful whether you are at the beginning of your journey or in survivorship and living with stomach cancer. And perhaps, through this, they can connect through one of the many wonderful support groups that My Gut Feeling has available. It doesn't provide answers to everything. I could probably sit here and talk to you about eating with stomach cancer for more than a day or two, and it's still, conversation wouldn't be complete. So hopefully this will be helpful to much more people out there. I was joking I couldn't find anything periwinkle to wear, so I decided to use this picture instead. It's Wisteria from Japan, but I think what's interesting about Wisteria is it grows only with the support of many kind of supports that kind of prop it up. It can't actually grow up on its own, and so I really compare that with kind of the supports that My Gut Feeling offers to gastric cancer patients and survivors, and with that you can grow beautifully into this. So thank you.
I have to tell you that working with Karmyn on the latest brochure for diet and nutrition and eating and living well with gastric cancer was lots of fun. I'm sure she was much too humble in how she contributed to that book. And we actually do have some here, both in French and English. But if anyone wants them, they're also on our website, so you can download them. Or if you want, you can always just send us a note and we will send you a copy, like a hard copy. They're really incredibly, they've got great information on all different aspects of all the stuff that that we go through. And I'm still going through it 15 years later.